Hello and welcome to another amazing episode of the Framework of Tomorrow. This is episode 29. I am your host, Keegan Goldfarb, and today I am going to be talking about the history of the samurai and what it means to be one. But before I get into that, as always, I want to talk about our longtime sponsor, the Minnesota Nurse. If you are pursuing a higher education or want insight on life as a nurse, go and check out Ashley Luann K on Instagram at the Minnesota Nurse. Just go to Instagram, type in the Minnesota Nurse, and you'll find her right there. She's currently doing a giveaway for $100 if you go and follow everyone that is in the Rally Network, which of course includes me, so you should definitely go and do that. And if you go and follow me for that giveaway, or for not that giveaway, I am also doing a giveaway on my Instagram. Go and check me out at the Framework of Tomorrow on Instagram. It's not quite $100. It's $15 to anywhere you want, though. I guess, I don't know. Hers is probably, I think it's a Visa. So hers is kind of anywhere you want to, but yeah. So $15 anywhere you want. I will either just give you a general gift card, or if you want a gift card to a specific place, I'll give you that too. $15, you'll just go to my Instagram and follow the steps that are there. It's pretty easy. You should definitely go and do that if you are interested in $15. So yes, today I'm going to be talking about the history of the samurai and how you can become one. I'm just kidding. And what it means to be one, or what it meant to be one back in the olden times, because samurais aren't around anymore. Not as much, well, not in the same way they used to be. They're still around, but, you know, for different reasons, just because of cultural remembrance and historical stuff like that. So samurais actually date back all the way to 794 AD. That's kind of the first time we see them pop up. And they stay around all the way until 1868. So samurais are around for a long time, basically 1,000 years. They're around for but a little over 1,000 years actually. So samurais are around for a long time. They're a long warrior, and they are very ancient as well, but also pretty recent because they dated all the way back to 1868, which isn't that long ago. I mean, that's 100. That's like 140 years ago now. 100 and yeah, something like that. So I guess that is a long time ago. But that's weird that I say that the 1800s isn't that long ago. I mean, in perspective, really, it isn't that long ago. But I mean, it still is pretty long time ago. Pretty different world back then. Anyway, so samurais were the first military that the early Japanese dictatorship used in the 12th century. So, of course, they were around before then, but the early Japanese dictatorship kind of took the samurai people, like the honor system and kind of everything like that, and kind of made them their military. And they made them fight. They made them fight. It was the samurais. And so the government was kind of their master in that aspect of it, and there was clans versus clans during that time. And yeah, so what does it mean to be a samurai? Samurai means those who serve. So of course, samurais were serving their government during this time, or their clans during these wars and stuff, because there was a lot of different wars. I could go into a lot of detail with the wars, but it's a lot. It's kind of a lot. It is a very, very honorable thing to become a samurai in Japan. And they still actually regard the samurai to be an honorable figure. But back in the time, if you became a samurai, you were like up there. Typically, you would be born into samurai, but there was, of course, cases where you could, I guess, go into being a samurai. But typically, it started when you were very, very, very young. Your family had a history in that. Your father was a samurai, something like that. That's typically how it was. And one of the influential things about samurai with their code was Zen Buddhism. It was a very popular among these samurai and was basically one of their main religions, and where a lot of their values stem from. So kind of their honor code comes out of Zen Buddhism. It's kind of the enlightenment of the self and honoring others and stuff like that. So this is what it kind of meant to be a samurai. So a man's honor was said to reside in his sword, and the craftsmanship of swords, including carefully hammered blades, gold and silver inlay, and shark skin hand grips became an art in itself. So their swords or katanas are very detailed. I don't know if you've ever seen a katana before. There are some that are like pretty plain, but typically theirs were like very detailed, and it was like their sword was art itself. The samurai, it was a very, very well-trained, highly skilled warrior. They, like I said, they normally started when they're pretty young. The life of a samurai actually typically began around the age of 5. When they start their training. So that you turn 5 years old. We're watching Sesame Street and stuff like that. Meanwhile, there's samurais that are starting their rigorous training, which is pretty insane. That's crazy. At the age of 5, they're starting their training. The samurai serves his daimyo. I'm saying that completely wrong. Or master with absolute loyalty, even to death. In fact, the word samurai means those who serve, which is interesting because remember when I said this samurai ended in 1868, right? Is that what I said? I think so. So then after that, of course, they were replaced with a pretty, like a modern military, and that's kind of what fought in World War II a little later. But it's interesting because those values kind of carried over because in the World Wars, the Japanese were very, they served until loyalty, until death. That's what it meant. They would die for their country. And that's really how they were. So you can see that leak into just their normal culture. And being a samurai, actually, they used to consider that like a whole different, like there was the Japanese and then there was the samurais that lived among them. Like they weren't really, like they were Japanese, but they were different. You know what I mean? So they were set apart. But as you can see, after the samurais kind of faded off, I feel like they kind of ingrained within the culture. So the samurai's life is ruled by Bushido, a strict warrior code with his emphasizing honor. Like I said, samurais were very honorable warriors. That was kind of their big thing on it. They were very, very honorable, which I think is really cool. And training in martial arts was also very important to them. A samurai is instantly recognizable due to their distinct armor and helmet. Although early samurai armor exhibited a solid plate construction, 5th and 6th century AD. That's really early on. So they kind of started building this armor pretty early on. Because you've seen samurai armor, and you've seen like the cool helmets and the armor, and you would think it would be super, super heavy, but actually they were very, very light. They were very light. And yeah, much later, hand-to-hand combat became more prevalent. The Do-Muro style armor became more popular among all samurai, which was worn by foot soldiers typically, and it was very lighter weight. But they actually modified the Do-Muro armor and made that to make it include heavy helmets, but the lightweight shoulder and shin guards as well. So they kind of modified it as time went on, and yeah, so that's pretty cool. So like I said, samurais today they're not around. It's kind of an historical thing. They're replaced with the modern military, and yeah, so samurais, I think samurais are so cool. I was actually in Japan, and samurais are still very around in their culture. I saw plenty of samurai things. I actually got a little samurai tapestry that hangs on the back of my door now, and it's really cool. I think samurai are so cool. I love like the honor system they had. I think that's just it's really cool that they could have such like an honor. They weren't like dirty fighters. They were very honorable, and even very honorable with their deaths as well. When they would die, it was an honorable death to die at the hand of your opponent. And that's just how it was treated back in the day, and I think that's really cool. And they were very cool warriors. And I think I personally really love Japanese culture, and samurais were a very important part of that culture, and they still are today. I think that's really cool. So this is a little shorter episode, but a random history fact today, as I do at the end of all of my episodes. Under special circumstances, an individual from outside of Japan could also fight alongside the samurai, and in some rare cases, they could even become one. So that's really cool. Like if you were a foreigner outside of Japan, and during the times when they existed, and you wanted to kind of be a samurai, there was some special circumstances where they could actually become one. Also, by the way, women fought as samurai as well. It wasn't just men. It was also women, which that's so cool. You never really think about that in a lot of cultures. I guess the Greeks had it as well. The women fought. They were the Valkyrie. Oh, sorry, that's not Greek. That's like the Nordic cultures. But that's so cool. I think it's so cool that it wasn't just guys. And yeah. So I really hope you enjoyed this episode. Just a little short episode on the way of the samurai. It wasn't super deep into it, but I hope you learned something out of it. I know I did when I was researching this, and I think it's just so cool to talk about samurai. And if you want to hear more, like if you want me to do like Vikings or the Greeks, the Spartans, and like talk about some more warriors and people in history like that, then let me know. Let me go to Framework of Tomorrow, or if you know me personally, send me a text or DM me on my Instagram, the Framework of Tomorrow, or my personal one if you know that. And if you have any thoughts or questions, make sure you do that. Make sure to rate me 5 stars on iTunes, or any stars on iTunes, honestly. It helps me out, and if I actually check iTunes, I will shout you out in one of my episodes. So if you want to be shout out in my episodes, go and rate me 5 stars on iTunes, or I guess any star. Even if you rate me 1 star, I'll still shout you out if you really want me to. I upload every Monday and Wednesday at 5 a.m. And make sure to listen next Monday, for another fantastic episode of The Framework of Tomorrow.